You are just one habit away from completely transforming your life. Sounds exaggerated? Then answer me this. How many times have you felt stuck in the same routine, facing the same problems, unable to move forward? And what if I told you that the greatest thinkers in history discovered the formula to overcome this more than 2,000 years ago? Today, you're going to learn 10 habits rooted in Stoicism that have the power to revolutionize your life. And I promise you this, the final habit I'll reveal is so powerful that once you truly adopt it, there's no going back to who you used to be. Get ready, because what you're about to discover will challenge everything you believe about control, happiness, and success. But before we begin this transformative journey, do one thing for me. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Why? Because what I share here isn't just information, it's wisdom applied to real life. And you won't want to miss any of these insights that can literally change your destiny. Now let's get straight to the point. Stoicism is not just an old, dusty philosophy. It's a practical system for living that shaped emperors, former slaves who became respected teachers, and leaders who faced the greatest adversities in history. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, wrote his Stoic reflections while commanding armies and ruling an empire. Epictetus, who was born a slave, became one of the most influential philosophers of all time. And Seneca, advisor to emperors, left us letters filled with wisdom on how to live well even in the midst of chaos. What did these men have in common? They practiced specific habits that made them unbreakable in the face of life's storms. And today, you're going to learn exactly what those habits are. The first Stoic habit that can transform your life is something Marcus Aurelius practiced every single morning when he woke up: mental preparation for the day. You know that feeling of waking up already overwhelmed, thinking about everything you have to do. The Stoics had the perfect solution for that. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and ill-tempered." Wait, that sounds negative, right? But here's the genius part. He wasn't being pessimistic. He was being prepared. Think about it. How many times has your day been ruined because someone was rude to you or because things didn't go as planned? You got upset, irritated, drained of energy. Why? Because you weren't prepared. You expected everything to go perfectly. The Stoics understood that life is unpredictable. So instead of being caught off guard, they mentally prepared themselves every morning. They visualized the challenges they might face and decided in advance how they would respond, not with anger, not with frustration, but with calm and wisdom. When you practice this habit, something remarkable happens. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become the architect of your reactions. Someone treats you poorly, you expected it, and you choose to respond with dignity. A problem shows up at work, you were already mentally prepared for obstacles, and you face the situation with clarity. This single habit can eliminate 90% of the unnecessary stress in your life. Because stress doesn't come from problems themselves. It comes from the gap between what we expect and what actually happens. When you align your expectations with reality, you become unshakable. The second transformative habit is the daily practice of reflection. Seneca was obsessed with this exercise. Every night, he would sit down and ask himself 3 simple questions. What did I do wrong today? What did I do right? What did I fail to do? Have you ever wondered why we repeat the same mistakes over and over again? Why we argue with the same people for the same reasons? Why we fall into the same traps? The answer is simple: because we don't reflect. Most people live on autopilot. They wake up, go to work, come home, sleep, and repeat. There's no pause, no analysis, no conscious learning. The Stoics believed that an unexamined life is not worth living. When you practice daily reflection, you become aware of your patterns. You notice that every time you're stressed, you speak harshly to the people you love. You realize you procrastinate whenever you feel insecure about a task. You identify that you're spending too much time on things that lead nowhere. And here's the power. Awareness is the first step to change. You can't change what you don't recognize. When you shine the light of reflection on your patterns, you gain the power to choose differently next time. Seneca said, "We should not go to sleep before examining our day." And he didn't do this to punish himself, but to improve. He celebrated his victories, no matter how small, and learned from his mistakes. This habit made him one of the wisest men of his time. Imagine doing this for 1 month. 30 days of reflecting on your actions, your words, your choices. You would start to see patterns you never noticed before. You'd begin to understand why certain areas of your life don't change. And most importantly, you'd finally have the tools to transform them. The third habit that can revolutionize your life is something Epictetus taught masterfully, the dichotomy of control. This is, without question, one of the most powerful lessons in Stoicism. And once you truly internalize it, your life will never be the same. Epictetus said, "Some things are within our control, and some things are not." Sounds obvious, right? But here's the problem. We spend most of our mental energy worrying, stressing, and feeling anxious about things we cannot control. You can't control what people think of you. You can't control the weather. You can't control traffic. You can't control the economy. You can't control whether you'll get promoted tomorrow. You can't control whether someone will love you back, but you can control your actions, your reactions, your effort, your attitude, your words, and your thoughts. That's what's truly under your control. And here's the liberating truth. That's all you need to control. Think about how many hours you've wasted worrying about things outside your control. How many nights of sleep you've lost replaying something someone said or did. How much peace has been stolen from you by situations completely beyond your reach. The Stoics offer a different path. They teach us to focus our energy exclusively on what we can control. And when we do that, something powerful happens. We become incredibly strong. While everyone else is wasting energy trying to control the uncontrollable, you're investing 100% of your effort into what actually matters. You can't control whether it rains on the day of your event, but you can control whether you have a backup plan. You can't control whether your boss recognizes your work, but you can control the quality of the work you deliver. When you truly embrace the dichotomy of control, you free yourself from an invisible prison. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become the master of your own life. Not because you control everything, but because you stop trying to control what you can't and focus all your power on what you can. This habit alone can eliminate 80% of your anxiety, because anxiety comes from trying to control an uncertain future. When you accept that you can't control the future, but you can control your actions in the present, you find a kind of peace most people will never know. The fourth Stoic habit that can radically transform your life is the practice of Amor Fati, which means love of fate. Marcus Aurelius took this so seriously that he wrote, "Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do, and you will be happy." Now, before you think this is about being passive or resigned, let me explain. Amor Fati isn't about giving up or accepting everything without question. It's something far deeper and more powerful. It's about fully embracing reality and drawing strength from it. You can spend your entire life resisting what happens to you. You can grow bitter over your losses, angry about your disappointments, resentful about your failures. Millions of people do exactly that, and the result, a life of constant suffering, because reality never bends to our wishes. The Stoics discovered something revolutionary. When you stop fighting reality and start loving it, when you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What can I learn from this?" everything changes. Imagine you lose your job. Most people would panic, feel defeated, and spend weeks drowning in self-pity. But someone who practices Amor Fati would say, "This is exactly what needed to happen. Maybe this job was holding me back from finding something better. Maybe this is my chance to finally pursue that dream I've been postponing." I'm going to fully embrace this and see where it leads. Do you see the difference? It's not about denying pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about turning every experience, good or bad, into fuel for growth. It's about looking at every obstacle and seeing a hidden opportunity. Marcus Aurelius faced wars, plagues, betrayals, and unimaginable losses during his reign. He could have become bitter and cruel. Instead, he chose to love his fate. He saw every challenge as a chance to practice virtue, to become wiser, stronger, and more compassionate. And here's the truth that changes everything. You don't choose everything that happens to you, but you always choose how you relate to what happens. When you practice Amor, Fati, you turn even your worst experiences into stepping stones for your rise. If you're enjoying this content and feeling that these habits can truly transform your life, hit the like button now. It helps me keep bringing this life-changing wisdom to you and to thousands of others who need to hear these truths. The fifth habit that can revolutionize your existence is something Seneca practiced religiously: meditation on impermanence. He spent time every day reminding himself that everything he loved, including his own life, was temporary. At first, this might sound morbid, but it's actually the opposite. It's one of the most liberating and transformative exercises you can do. Let me explain why. We live as if we're immortal. We postpone important conversations. We hold grudges for years. We fail to tell the people we love how much they matter. We waste time on trivial things. Why? Because deep down, we act as if we have unlimited time. But the truth is, we don't. Every day that passes is a day that will never return. Every moment with the people we love is unique and unrepeatable. That meal you're eating right now, you'll never eat that exact meal again. That conversation you're having, it's one of a kind in the history of the universe. When you meditate on impermanence, something profound happens. You begin to value what truly matters. That petty argument you're having with your sibling suddenly feels insignificant when you remember that one day one of you won't be here. That promotion you didn't get loses its grip when you realize life is far bigger than titles and status. Seneca practiced a specific exercise. Every night before going to sleep, he said goodbye to his loved ones as if it were the last time. Not dramatically, but with full awareness that every encounter could be the last. It made him treat people with more love, more patience, and more presence. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you accept impermanence, when you embrace the fact that everything is temporary, you don't become sad. You become free. Free to love without fear. Free to live fully. Free to appreciate each moment exactly as it is. People who have close brushes with death often report returning with a completely transformed perspective. They stop worrying about nonsense. They become more present. They appreciate the small things. Why? Because they caught a glimpse of impermanence. But you don't need to wait for tragedy to gain this perspective. You can cultivate it consciously every single day through this meditation. Ask yourself, if today were my last day, would I waste energy fighting over this trivial issue? Would I fail to tell someone I love them? Would I postpone that dream one more time? The sixth transformative habit is the practice of temperance and self-control. Epictetus was radical about this. He said, "We are not free if we are slaves to our desires." And look around, how many people do you know who are truly free? Most people are slaves. Slaves to the phone they can't put down. Slaves to food they know is destroying their health but can't stop eating. Slaves to comfort that keeps them from pursuing their dreams. Slaves to other people's approval, living a life that isn't really theirs. The Stoics understood that true freedom doesn't come from having everything you want, but from not needing everything you want. It's about developing the muscle of self-control, the ability to say no to impulses that pull you away from the person you want to become. Think about it. Every time you give in to an impulse that goes against your values, you weaken your will. Every time you click that notification when you should be working, you train your brain to be weak. Every time you eat that dessert, knowing you're trying to be healthy, You send yourself a message that your own words don't matter. But the opposite is also true. Every time you resist a destructive impulse, you strengthen your character. Every time you choose what's hard, but right over what's easy but wrong, you build integrity. Every time you act in alignment with your values, even when it's inconvenient, you become stronger. Epictetus practiced very specific exercises in self-discipline. At times, he would voluntarily fast, not because he had to, but to train his ability to resist desire. He occasionally slept on uncomfortable beds to remind himself that he didn't need luxury to be happy. He exposed himself to cold and heat to strengthen his resilience. This may sound extreme, but think about the principle behind it. When you voluntarily practice discomfort, you become less vulnerable to involuntary suffering. When you train your ability to delay gratification, you gain the superpower of pursuing long-term goals instead of living only for momentary pleasure. The average person today is constantly chasing comfort and immediate pleasure. The result? More anxiety, more depression, more dissatisfaction than ever before. Why? Because true happiness doesn't come from constant pleasure. It comes from the feeling of being in control of your own life, of living in alignment with your values. When you develop self-control, you're not depriving yourself of pleasure. You're freeing yourself from slavery to your impulses. You're consciously choosing what enters your life instead of being carried away by every wave of desire that appears. The seventh Stoic habit that can transform your reality is the practice of active gratitude. Marcus Aurelius began his mornings not only by preparing himself for challenges, but also by reflecting on everything he was grateful for. And here's something you need to understand. Gratitude isn't just a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's a powerful weapon against suffering. You see, the human brain has a natural tendency to focus on the negative. It's a survival mechanism we inherited from our ancestors. They had to pay attention to threats in order to stay alive. The problem is that today, most of us aren't facing lions or predators, but our brains are still scanning for danger non-stop. The result? You have a job, but all you can think about is the annoying co-worker. You have your health, but you complain about a slight ache in your knee. You have a family, but you fixate on their flaws. Your mind is programmed to see what's missing, what's wrong, what needs fixing. Gratitude is the antidote. When you consciously direct your attention toward what's working, toward what you already have, toward the blessings in your life, you begin to rewire your brain. You train your mind to see abundance instead of scarcity. But here's the key. It can't be superficial gratitude, simply listing in your head, "I'm grateful for my house, my family, my job." Without truly feeling, it doesn't work. The Stoics practiced what I call active gratitude, where you deeply contemplate what your life would be like without those things. Marcus Aurelius used a powerful exercise. He would imagine losing everything he had, and then open his eyes and realize he still had it all. This simple practice transformed things he took for granted into precious gifts. Try this right now. Imagine you wake up tomorrow and you've lost your vision. What would your life be like? How much would you be willing to pay to see again? Now open your eyes. You can see. You didn't pay anything for that today, yet you're receiving this incredible gift. How does that change your perspective? Imagine you could never walk again. What would it be like to depend on others for everything? Now move your legs. You can walk. That's a miracle you probably didn't celebrate even once today. When you practice gratitude at this depth, something incredible happens. You stop living in the mindset of, "When I get that, then I'll be happy," and you start realizing you already have enough reasons to be happy right now, not because your life is perfect, but because you're paying attention to the right things. And here's the most powerful part. Gratitude doesn't just change how you feel, it changes how you act. When you're grateful for your body, you take better care of it. When you're grateful for the people in your life, you treat them better. When you're grateful for the opportunities you have, you make better use of them. The eighth transformative habit is something Seneca mastered like few others, the art of living in the present moment. He wrote something that should be etched into everyone's mind. We live as if we were going to live forever, and never does our own fragility cross our minds. We waste time as though we have an endless supply of it. Be honest with yourself. Where is your mind right now? Are you truly here, absorbing these words, or are you thinking about what you'll do next? Are you replaying something that happened yesterday, worrying about something that might happen tomorrow? Most people spend their entire lives everywhere, except the one place where life actually happens, the present moment. They live in the past, reliving regrets and resentment, or they live in the future, anxious about things that may never happen. Meanwhile, real life is slipping by. That child calling your name. They won't be young forever. That sunset you didn't notice because you were on your phone. Gone, never to be repeated. That meal you rushed through while watching TV. You missed the full experience. The Stoics understood that the only moment you can truly live is now. The past is gone. You can't change it. The future doesn't exist yet. You can't control it. But the present is where all your power lives. When you're fully present, everything changes. Food tastes better. Conversations become deeper. Work feels more meaningful because you're actually there, experiencing life fully instead of having your body in one place and your mind somewhere else. Seneca practiced a simple but powerful exercise. Throughout the day, he would pause and ask himself, "Where am I right now? What am I doing? Am I truly here?" That brief pause brought him back to the present moment. And here's something crucial. Being present doesn't mean you can't plan for the future or learn from the past. It means you do those things consciously, in the present, instead of being dragged around by endless thoughts about what was or what might be. When you're planning, you're present in the act of planning. When you're reflecting on the past, you're present in the act of reflecting. But when you're physically doing one thing while your mind is somewhere else, you're not really living, you're just existing. The ninth Stoic habit that can revolutionize your life is something all the great Stoics practiced relentlessly: the pursuit of self-knowledge. Socrates, who deeply influenced Stoicism, said that the unexamined life is not worth living, and he was absolutely right. Most people don't truly know themselves. They go through years, sometimes decades, without ever questioning why they think the way they think, why they react the way they react, or why they make the choices they make. They are strangers to themselves. Do you know what your real values are? Not the ones you claim to have, but the ones your actions reveal. Do you know your deepest fears and how they shape your decisions? Do you understand your patterns, your triggers, your vulnerabilities? The Stoics believed you can't improve what you don't understand. How can you correct a character flaw if you don't even realize it exists? How can you overcome a fear if you don't know where it comes from? How can you live according to your values if you've never clearly defined them? Epictetus told his students, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." In other words, you must know yourself deeply before you can consciously shape who you become. Self-knowledge requires courage, because when you truly look inward, you'll find things you'd rather not see. You'll realize you're not as brave as you thought, not as honest as you claim, that many of your beliefs aren't truly yours. They were absorbed from others. But here's the beauty of it. When you shine the light of awareness on these shadows, they lose their power over you. That insecurity that makes you defensive in meetings, once you recognize it and understand where it comes from, you can start working on it. That fear of rejection holding you back from pursuing your dreams, when you name it and face it, it stops controlling you. Marcus Aurelius spent hours writing his reflections, not for publication, but for self-understanding. He questioned his motivations, examined his reactions, and challenged his beliefs. This constant process of self-examination is what made him one of the wisest and most emotionally balanced men in history. And you don't need to be a Roman emperor to do this. You can start today, right now. Set aside 15 minutes a day to write about yourself. Ask hard questions. Why did that comment irritate you so much? What does it reveal about your insecurities? Why do you keep putting off that project? What fear is really hiding behind that procrastination? The more you know yourself, the freer you become, because you stop being manipulated by internal forces you don't understand. You stop reacting automatically and start responding consciously. You stop being a stranger living inside your own body and become the true master of your own existence. Now we arrive at the 10th and most powerful Stoic habit of all. This is the habit that, when truly internalized, has the power to transform not just specific areas of your life, but your entire existence. Pay close attention, because this may be exactly what you needed to hear. The 10th habit is the practice of virtue above all else. For the Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, virtue wasn't just a beautiful idea, it was the only true good. They believed that wealth, fame, pleasure, even health are indifferent. The only thing that truly matters is living virtuously. Now, before you dismiss this as too abstract or idealistic, let me explain what this means in practice and why it's so revolutionary. The Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. And they structured their entire lives around these virtues. Here's what makes this so powerful. When you make virtue your highest priority, you free yourself from the tyranny of external circumstances. Think about it. If your happiness depends on getting that promotion, what happens when you don't get it? You're miserable. If your peace depends on people liking you, what happens when someone doesn't? You suffer. But if your peace comes from knowing you're acting with integrity, no one can take that away from you. If your fulfillment comes from living in alignment with your values, external circumstances lose their power over you. You become, in the words of Marcus Aurelius, like a rock against which the waves keep crashing, yet it remains unmoved. Let's make this concrete. Imagine you're in a situation where you could easily lie and gain a significant advantage. No one would find out. You wouldn't get caught. Most people would do it without a second thought. But someone who practices Stoic virtue would ask, is this aligned with my values? Is this the person I want to be? And here's the magic. When you choose virtue, even when it costs you something, you gain something far more valuable. You gain self-respect, you gain integrity, you gain the ability to look in the mirror and genuinely like the person staring back at you. Marcus Aurelius held absolute power over the Roman Empire. He could have taken whatever he wanted, done whatever he pleased, used his position purely for personal gain. But he chose virtue above all else. He treated even his enemies with fairness. He restrained himself when he could have indulged in excess. He pursued wisdom when he could have settled for comfortable ignorance. And the result, he became one of the most respected men in history, not because of his power, but because of his character. Nearly 2,000 years later, we still study his words because he lived in a way that transcended his time and place. Now, living virtuously doesn't mean being perfect. The Stoics didn't expect perfection. They expected consistent effort. It means that every time you face a choice, you ask, what is the right thing to do here? And then you do it, even when it's hard, even when it costs you something, even when no one is watching. You see someone being mistreated? Virtue calls for the courage to step in. You have the chance to gossip about someone? Virtue asks you to hold back. You could take a dishonest shortcut. Virtue demands that you choose the honest path, even if it's longer and harder. And here's what happens when you live this way consistently. You build a character that is truly unshakable, because no matter what happens externally, you always have your virtue. You can lose your money, but not your integrity. You can lose your status, but not your wisdom. You can lose relationships, but not your character, unless you abandon it yourself. Epictetus, who spent part of his life as a slave, is living proof of this. He had no physical freedom, no wealth, no power, but he had virtue, and that made him freer than most free men of his time. No one could take away his dignity because it didn't depend on external circumstances. When you adopt virtue as your guiding principle, you stop living like most people, enslaved by circumstances, by other people's opinions, by their own desires. You begin to live like the rare individuals who are truly free, those who consciously choose who they are, regardless of what's happening around them. Let me give you a personal example that illustrates this perfectly. Imagine you're competing for an important position at work with a colleague. You accidentally discover damaging information about them. Information that, if revealed, would eliminate your competition. But it was obtained unintentionally, and exposing it would be unfair and potentially harmful. Most people would justify revealing it. It's just competition. Business is business. If I don't do it, someone else will. But someone guided by Stoic virtue would ask a different question. What kind of person do I want to be? Someone who wins by destroying others, or someone who wins on their own merit? And here's the deeper truth. You might not get the position, but you keep something far more valuable. You keep your integrity. You keep your self-respect. And interestingly, people of true character often end up being rewarded in ways they never expected. Not because the universe is fair, but because character attracts opportunities that people without character will never have access to. Stoic virtue isn't about blindly following rules. It's about being guided by principles you consciously choose. It's about living in a way that, when you look back 10, 20, or 50 years from now, you won't feel ashamed. It's about building a life that means something beyond accumulation and pleasure. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that should be engraved in the heart of every person. Do not waste the remainder of your life in thoughts about others unless they are for the common good. You deprive yourself of another opportunity when you entertain thoughts like, what is so-and-so doing? Why? What is he saying, thinking, or plotting? Reflect on this, and you'll realize how many things distract you from the path of virtue. So how do you actually start incorporating these 10 transformative habits into your life? How do you move from simply knowing these ideas to truly living them? Because let's be honest, knowledge without application is just entertainment. And you're not here to be entertained. You're here to be transformed. The first thing you need to understand is that real change doesn't happen overnight. The Stoics knew this. Seneca said that we become who we are through small daily choices repeated over time. You don't wake up one day as a completely different person. You become a different person through thousands of small decisions. So here's what I suggest. Don't try to implement all 10 habits at once. That's a recipe for failure and frustration. Instead, choose one, just one. Which one resonated with you the most? Which of the 10 habits, if you truly embodied it, would make the biggest difference in your life right now? Maybe it's morning mental preparation. Maybe it's evening reflection. Maybe it's practicing the dichotomy of control. Choose the one that feels most urgent, most necessary, based on where you are in your journey, and then commit. Not in a vague way, like, I'll try to do this. The Stoics were not people of trying, they were people of commitment. Marcus Aurelius didn't try to be just, he was just. Epictetus didn't try to live virtuously, he lived virtuously. Make a specific commitment. For example, every morning for the next 30 days, I will spend 5 minutes mentally preparing for the day, visualizing challenges, and deciding how I will respond. Or every night before bed, I will spend 10 minutes reflecting on my day, what I did well, what I did poorly, and what I can improve. And here's something crucial. Don't expect perfection. The Stoics understood that progress, not perfection, is the goal. You'll forget some days, you'll fail sometimes. That doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're human. What matters is that you keep coming back, keep practicing, keep moving forward. Seneca had a powerful concept called virtuous progress. He said we don't become wise instantly, but we do become progressively less foolish. Every day you practice these habits, you become a little stronger, a little wiser, a little freer. And here's what will happen. As you master one habit, the others begin to fall into place naturally. When you practice daily reflection, you naturally develop greater self-awareness. When you practice the dichotomy of control, you naturally develop more inner peace. When you live virtuously, you naturally become more present, because you're no longer carrying the weight of guilt and shame. These habits aren't isolated, they're interconnected. They work together to transform you into someone fundamentally different, not superficially different, but different at the deepest level, your character, your values, your soul. Now let me talk about something many people don't understand about real transformation. Transformation is not comfortable. If you're looking for change that's easy and pleasant all the time, you're looking for the wrong thing. The Stoics knew that growth comes through challenge, discomfort, and doing hard things. When you start practicing temperance, it will feel uncomfortable to say no to your impulses. When you start living virtuously, it will be difficult to choose the right path when the wrong one is easier. When you begin meditating on impermanence, you'll feel discomfort confronting your own mortality. But here's the truth, that discomfort is the price of freedom. It's the cost of becoming who you're truly capable of being. And compared to the suffering of living a mediocre life, of reaching the end of your life and realizing you never truly lived, that discomfort is small. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That realization alone can change everything. Because when you understand that the only real obstacle to your transformation is your own mind, you realize you already have all the power you need. External circumstances do not determine who you are. Your past does not define your future. Your previous failures do not limit your potential. The only thing that determines who you become is what you choose to do right now, in this moment. And let me be very clear about this. You don't need perfect conditions to begin. You don't need to wait until you have more time, more money, or more support. The Stoics practiced their philosophy amid wars, plagues, slavery, betrayal, and devastating loss. If they could practice under those conditions, you can practice under yours. In fact, difficult conditions are the perfect training ground for Stoicism. It's easy to be virtuous when everything is going well. It's easy to be grateful when you have everything. It's easy to be present when there's no stress. The real test and the real opportunity for growth comes when life is hard. Epictetus told his students, "Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him." Every challenge you face is an opportunity to practice these habits, to strengthen your character, and to prove to yourself what you're capable of. That difficult person at work? A perfect opportunity to practice patience and understanding. That disappointment you just experienced? A chance to practice Amor Fati and find meaning in adversity. That temptation calling your name? A moment to exercise temperance and self-control. The Stoics saw all of life as a gym for the soul. Every experience, good or bad, was a training opportunity, and the more you train, the stronger you become. Not physically, but where it truly matters, in character, in wisdom, in the ability to live well regardless of circumstances. Now let's talk about something extremely important, community and example. The Stoics placed great value on having role models and surrounding themselves with people who shared their values. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the virtues of people he admired and tried to embody those qualities himself. Who are your role models? Who inspires you through the way they live? It doesn't have to be someone famous or historical. It can be someone in your own life who demonstrates admirable character. Study these people. Observe how they handle challenges. Ask yourself, how would this person respond in this situation? And just as important, who are you spending your time with? The Stoics knew we are deeply influenced by the people around us. Seneca wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you can improve." The process is mutual. People learn while they teach. If you're surrounded by people who live mediocre lives, who constantly complain, who hold no standards for themselves, it will be much harder for you to live by higher principles, not because you're weak, but because we are all shaped by our environment. Seek out people who are on the same path of growth as you, people who value virtue, who pursue wisdom, who are trying to live intentionally. These connections won't just make your journey easier, they'll make it richer and more meaningful. And here's something powerful. As you change, you naturally become an example for others, not by preaching or trying to convert anyone, but simply by living according to your principles. People notice when someone lives with integrity. They notice when someone remains calm in chaos. They notice when someone chooses virtue, even when it's difficult. You can become that light for other people, not through empty words, but through the living example of what's possible when someone truly commits to these principles. And when you inspire others, you strengthen your own commitment even more. It becomes a virtuous cycle that elevates everyone. Now I want to share something that completely changed my own understanding of Stoicism. For a long time, I believed Stoicism was about suppressing emotions, about being cold and distant. But the more I studied it, the more I realized I was completely wrong. The Stoics were not emotionless robots. Marcus Aurelius deeply loved his family. Seneca wrote letters filled with warmth and affection to his friends. Epictetus genuinely cared about his students. They felt joy, sadness, love, all the full range of human emotions. The difference is that they were not controlled by their emotions. They didn't allow anger to push them into destructive actions. They didn't let fear paralyze them. They didn't let pleasure pull them away from their values. They felt their emotions fully, but they responded to them with wisdom. This is crucial to understand, because many people abandon Stoicism thinking they have to become emotionless. It's not about not feeling, it's about not being a slave to your feelings. It's about creating space between stimulus and response, and using that space to choose wisely. When someone insults you, you will feel anger. That's natural and human. But between feeling anger and acting on it, there is a space. The Stoics trained themselves to expand that space so they could choose how to respond instead of reacting automatically. You can feel anger and still choose to respond with dignity. You can feel fear and still choose to act with courage. Now let me ask you a crucial question. What are you going to do with everything you've learned today? Because here's the hard truth. Knowledge without action is useless. You can watch 1,000 videos about Stoicism, read 100 philosophy books, but if you don't apply any of it, you remain exactly where you are. The Stoics were intensely practical. They didn't philosophize for intellectual entertainment. They philosophized to live better. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations to impress anyone. He wrote them as practical reminders for how to live. Epictetus didn't teach to sound smart. He taught to change lives. So here's your challenge. Before you go to bed tonight, choose one of the 10 habits we discussed and make a specific commitment about how you will practice it tomorrow. Not a vague promise, something concrete. Write it down if you need to. Make it real. If you choose morning mental preparation, set your alarm 5 minutes earlier and decide exactly what you'll visualize. If you choose evening reflection, block 10 minutes on your calendar before bed. If you choose the dichotomy of control, write "What can I control?" on a piece of paper and place it somewhere you'll see it during the day. Do something, anything, to make this real and not just another video you watched and forgot. Because real transformation begins with a decision followed by action. And that action starts now, not tomorrow, not Monday, not when conditions are perfect. Now. And here's something I need you to understand deeply. You are capable of far more than you think. I'm not speaking in empty motivational cliches. I'm talking about a truth the Stoics understood profoundly. Inside you is enormous potential, dormant and waiting to be awakened. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Everything you need to become excellent is already inside you. You don't need to wait for someone to save you, motivate you, or give you permission. You already have the ability to choose, to change, to grow. But that ability only appears when you exercise it. It's like a muscle that weakens when it's not used. Every time you choose the easy path instead of the right one, that muscle gets weaker. Every time you choose virtue, even when it's hard, you strengthen it. And here's the incredible part. the stronger that muscle becomes, the easier it is to live well. At first, choosing discipline over impulse is hard. Choosing virtue over convenience is challenging. But with consistent practice, those choices become natural. They become who you are. The Stoics called this building your character, and your character is the only thing you truly own. Your money can be taken, your status can disappear, your health can fail, but who you are at the deepest level cannot be taken from you unless you allow it. Epictetus, who experienced this literally as a slave, understood that no one could enslave his mind, his principles, or his inner character. Even in chains, he was free in a way many free men never will be, because real freedom isn't about external circumstances, it's about inner sovereignty. Now let's address something that may be running through your mind. This all sounds great, but what if I try and fail? What if I can't stay consistent? That's a valid concern, but let me reframe failure for you. The Stoics didn't see failure the way we do today. For them, the only true failure was not trying, giving up on the effort to become better. Epictetus said, "Don't worry if you fail occasionally. Simply begin again. What matters is continuing the effort. You will have bad days. You will lose your patience when you promised yourself you wouldn't. You will give in to temptation when you were trying to practice self-control. You'll forget to practice gratitude even after committing to it. That's not failure. That's part of the process. Failure is quitting entirely, using one slip as an excuse to abandon the entire effort, falling once and deciding to stay on the ground. The real failures are those who stop trying to become better. Marcus Aurelius had terrible days. He faced betrayal, devastating losses, impossible decisions, and still every morning he got up and began again. Not because it was about being perfect, but because it was about continuing to live according to his principles. So be kind to yourself in the process, but not so kind that you excuse yourself from making any effort. There's a difference between self-compassion and self-indulgence. Self-compassion acknowledges that you're human and will make mistakes, but still pushes you forward. Self-indulgence uses your humanity as an excuse not to try. Before we finish, I want to leave you with one final powerful reflection. Think about who you were 5 years ago. You're probably a different person now, right? Your experiences changed you, for better or worse. You grew in some areas and maybe regressed in others. Now imagine yourself 5 years from now. Who do you want to be? Not superficially but deeply. What kind of character do you want to have? How do you want to respond to challenges? What kind of legacy do you want to be building? Here's the truth. The person you'll be 5 years from now is being shaped by the choices you make today. Every small decision, every habit you build or neglect, every moment you choose the easy path or the right one is shaping who you're becoming. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew you don't become the person you want to be by accident, but through deliberate design and consistent effort. And they knew the only moment you can influence your future is now. This present moment. So what choice are you going to make right now? Are you going to close this video, say, "That was interesting," and continue living exactly as before? Or are you going to decide that today marks the beginning of a new way of living, one rooted in ancient wisdom that is eternally relevant? If you've watched until this point, comment below, "I'm ready for transformation." Write it not just as a comment, but as a commitment to yourself, a declaration that you're ready to stop merely knowing these ideas and start living them. And if you truly want to go deeper in this transformation, subscribe to this channel now. Because my mission here isn't just to share information, it's to build a community of people who are genuinely committed to living better, growing, and becoming the best version of themselves. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos, where we'll continue exploring not only Stoicism, but all forms of practical wisdom that can elevate your life. And if this video resonated with you, if it felt like exactly what you needed to hear, share it with someone who needs this message too. Remember, the Stoics believed that part of living well is helping others live well. When you share wisdom, you don't just help others, you strengthen your own commitment to these principles. On the screen now, you'll see two other videos that perfectly complement what we learned today. One explores how the Stoics faced extreme adversity while maintaining inner peace. The other reveals specific daily practices you can implement immediately to begin your Stoic transformation. Make sure to watch them. But before you go, I want to leave you with Marcus Aurelius's final words that summarize everything we talked about today. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. You have everything you need inside you. The 10 habits I shared today are just tools, but you are the craftsman. It's up to you to pick up those tools and build a life of meaning, purpose, and virtue. A life that when you look back at 80 or 90 years old fills you with deep pride. Don't wait for the perfect Monday, the new year, or the ideal moment. Start now. Choose one habit, make a commitment, take the first step, trust the process. Because if you truly commit to these principles, 1 year from now, you'll look back and barely recognize the person you used to be. Your life will never be the same, not because I said so, but because you decided it wouldn't be. This is your call. This is your opportunity. This is your moment. Don't let it pass.